When I was asked to speak to parents today about mindset, I got really excited because if you're a parent and you're stuck in a house with a couple of kids, trying to homeschool, trying to cook, trying to clean, collect a paycheck, and completely devoid of distractions, except for your spouse who probably disagrees with half of what you're doing right now, well, congratulations. Whether you want to participate or not, you're in the middle of spiritual boot camp hell. And I'm smiling because I think for a lot of people, the current holding pattern that we're in is so uncomfortable that it is uncomfortable enough for people to actually be motivated to change. And part of why I love to be a parenting coach is because if you don't do it for yourself, I can guilt you into doing it for your kids, okay? So, in the next half hour, I am going to shift the way you think about your role as a parent and your interactions at home. I'm going to show you the biggest mistake that parents are making right now and how to fix it. And it's actually not that hard. And I'm going to give you some fake it till you make it strategies. Lastly, at the end of this video, I am going to give away something, a free giveaway, but you have to watch till the end to find out the details in case we get cut short. So, as mentioned in my intro earlier, I'm a Tony Robbins master coach, and that's all about, making things happen, assuming the position and changing your state in an instant. It's very, action oriented, choose your own adventure. You're the author and the main character in those books. And I'm also a conscious parenting coach, which is quite different. I've studied with Dr. Shefali directly, who Oprah reveres as the most revolutionary parenting coach or voice for parenting of our generation. And with consciousness, by definition, that's quite the opposite of, assuming any position or creating any, becoming anything other than what you truly are. So it's more about peeling back the layers one at a time so that you can, unfold and really reveal who you are and who you always have been. So in other words, my approach, my work is very much the integration of both East and West. And I truly believe that you need both to master this current reality. So let's get started. Let me just make sure that this is working and that you guys can hear me. Okay. All right, great. So let's get started. First, I want you to understand that with consciousness, basically a main assumption is that every single thing that happens to us, everything that we do, every interaction that we have is for you. So nothing happens to you, but it happens for you. And what this means is that all these interactions that are going on in your house, all of these moments that you're getting triggered left and right by your kids and by your partner and by your parents who maybe you've locked them away somewhere, or by the teachers that are asking you to homeschool. I mean, all these different things that are triggering you right now are opportunities for you to peel back those layers that we talked about before. Okay, there are opportunities for you to heal. There are no universal triggers. Your triggers are not the same as mine. For example, you and I arrive at an airport and our plane is canceled. You might say, oh, wonderful. I didn't have time to send an online document. I'm going to write this document before I get on the plane so that I can relax on the plane. I might have a nervous breakdown and decide this is just one more example of the world, the universe conspiring against me. I have the worst luck. Who in that situation is taking on the higher vibration, me or you? Who in that situation is going to be able to make the best decision for the following moment, me or you? So what I invite you to do in your house right now, because you are being triggered so often, is I invite you to become aware of these things, because the beauty is we are a lot more simple than we give than we like to think of ourselves. And there aren't that many different patterns. There aren't that many different triggers. And if you just spent the next even 10 hours of your day writing down every single time you're triggered. So every single time you're triggered, write it down. Okay. Whether it's, think about dinner time. Someone asks you what you're making for dinner. Is that a trigger? Think about, last night when your child refused to go to sleep. Is that a trigger? So every single time, take the moment and write it down. And because you are being triggered so often right now, this is actually such a great opportunity to make this almost a spiritual practice, but not even spiritual, but like a mindful practice where you're actually really, really being hyper focused on being aware of what's happening. Okay. So the first step is literally just to write it down. It's taking a pause and physically writing it down. I keep saying that because people are nodding and are not going to write it down, but that is such an important part of it, because since we're not used to stopping, we blast right through those and we miss these opportunities. So after you write it down, I want you to take a second and just listen, feel. What is the sentiment? Like, what is the overwhelming sensation that you have at that moment? Is it one of, this is so unfair. I can't even believe this. Everyone treats me this way or that way. There is this feeling, and that feeling, if the more that we can kind of capture it, you don't even need to know the words for it, the more we can understand what your trigger is. And what's important about that feeling is that it's not so important to know what happened that made you that way. Like what layer got implanted when you were 7 that told you you were unworthy. That is not so important, but it is very important to understand where you go. So I will give you an example. I go to victim. Okay. So I go to victim mode when my kids are on their 5th tantrum of the day and flipping out on me and saying things like, mean mommy, and I want a new mommy, and whatever other, what did one of my daughters say the other day? That my hair was a rat's nest. I don't even know where she saw that, but whatever the meanest thing they can come up with, I can take it most of the time, and I can stay present. But every now and then, if I'm not very careful, I go into, I can't believe they're talking to me this way after everything I do for them. They don't appreciate me after everything I've sacrificed. And if I let myself go down that, there is absolutely no way that I can stay in the moment and make the best decision for the next moment. Instead, I've basically put them on Craigslist at that point. I basically have decided that they are terrible human beings. And what does that do for me? It certainly doesn't help me get through the next hour of my life. And if I am really in my adult self, I can go ahead and talk back to myself and say, no one's treating you terribly. No one's doing these horrible things to you. In fact, no one asked you to sacrifice anything. They didn't even ask to be born. They're just children acting like children, and they don't know how to get their needs met. That's my job to teach them, right? So in that moment, if I can just stay present and drop all 11 of the tantrums that just happened, and not think about how I'm so exhausted, and not think about how they threw their dinner, down the drain, but now they want another. But if I could just stay in that moment, that is how I'm going to make the best decision for the following moment. Okay. So there are 3 steps of how you can actually identify when you are being hijacked, because that is exactly what it is. When you are in that state of reaction, it's not you. It's not the adult self. It's actually a version of yourself that was created probably around 6 or 7 years old. So our ego comes in to protect the child in us when we are 6 years old. And while it's very well intentioned, it's still 6 years old. And you as an adult are better suited to make decisions and to defend yourself than this part of your ego that was created to defend a 6-year-old who was getting bullied by their older brother, or who was being spoken to harshly by a parent and decided to, retreat, and that was the best way to do it. So the ego goes into a very primitive mode where it's just using fight, flight, or freeze. And as a grown-up dealing with your children, you cannot afford to go into those. You cannot afford to have a 6-year-old running the show, because you will essentially be arguing with your 6-year-old child. So while we're being triggered so frequently, it would be such a great opportunity for you to identify where you go. Where is it you go? Do you go to victim? Do you go to avoider? Do you go to sulky whiner? Do you go to overly empathetic or overly cheerful, the busy doer? I mean, how many Instagram posts can you see about organizing your closet or, other parts of your room? That's a busy doer at work. Or, that's like the huge one, or the victim mode. I think if you don't know where you go, I would look into those too. And so once you know who's coming, then you can very much identify it and talk to it. So one of my favorite things to do is I lived in New York City my entire adult life. And so, we take the subway everywhere. And I think about being your adult self and being conscious and staying on the platform. Okay, so the subway comes, and it's not going to be a surprise. You can literally look at this for 10 hours. The amount that you're being triggered right now, you can look at this for 10 hours and you'll start to see very quickly where you go. So you're on the platform, right? And, your kid throws their spaghetti at your white t-shirt. I wear a white t-shirt almost every day. I don't know why, because I get either spaghetti sauce or wine on it every single day. I didn't have one that was clean today, so I'm wearing black. But your kid comes and throws their spaghetti sauce on you because they don't like the third dinner that you've cooked. And yeah, you know what's going to happen. You're going to feel, or I will feel, like a victim. So I'm on the platform. There comes victim. Thank you. Thanks for showing up. Good to see you. Oh, train of rejection right on time. Oh, there you go. There's feeling sorry for myself. Okay, should I overfix things? Great, but you stay on the platform. You let those trains go by. The problem is when you're not conscious, you get on a train and the next thing you know, you're on an express train to Queens or something. Your job is to stay conscious so that you know exactly what trains you're getting on, and you're not at the mercy of these emotional tides that come through. As a parent, you are going to be hit with so many of these, but you have to remain a sea of calm, especially right now. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the second thing I want to talk about today, which is really understanding what your role as a parent is right now. This is, different for a lot of people. A lot of people have different ideas about this, but from a conscious parenting perspective, your role as a parent is to guide your child, like to be the usher, to usher this spirit through this iteration of that spirit, and you are their guide. So I love to think about that because it actually really helps me to understand and detach a little bit. But for other people, that's really hard because what they want to do is they want to mold and discipline and create this child. And when things are going well, it's all, actually one of my dear friends yesterday asked me what traits I see in the kids that are mine and what are their fathers. And I said, well, it's the same answer for everybody. All parents think that the great traits are them and the other traits are from the other family. And it's the same as when, your kids are doing great, you give yourself so much credit. And when they're not, it's, definitely not your fault. It's definitely something that you need to change, fix, deconstruct and manage. And during this time, I think that you can make it a practice to actually recognize your role as guide and teacher. And it is such an incredible time to do that because you are, again, around each other all the time. And you have this opportunity to just show up with this energy. So you have this opportunity to show up for your kids in a way that is completely unaltered by outside circumstances. And that is of so much value to a child. If you could learn at the age of 6, at the age of 10, that your state will not be dictated by things out of your control, because nothing is in our control right now. So people are obsessed with the homeschooling. People are obsessed with, getting the work done and organizing the kids off of screens and all of those things. And all that is doing is adding to the stress and the craziness that is going on right now. So the next time your kid is on the screen, take a step back and actually think about, what need are they filling right now with this screen? Okay. From human needs psychology, we have the six human needs, not wants, needs, right? You have certainty, you have uncertainty. So certainty is just the need to know what's coming, the need to know how to avoid pain, the need to know that you can avoid pain, the need to know that you'll have somewhere to sleep that night, the need to know that you'll be safe. Okay. Kids do not have certainty right now. None of them. They can look to you for that, or they can look to their screens for that and find some way to be consistent. So you have the younger kids who are playing, let's say Fortnite, and they're feeling the need of certainty. They know the game. They know what's going to happen. Uncertainty, variety. They have kind of a different experience every time, depending on what players are playing, depending on, how they do. Significance, the need to know that what you do matters, the need to know that your actions will have an impact in some way that are intended in the way that you intended. Okay. So with video games, the kids can literally look up and see their score change every 2 seconds and have a direct cause and effect and be significant. If they, make a false move, they're out. Like if they do well, they advance to the next level. And then you have a really big one that these kids are getting is connection. They're connecting with their friends right now. That is their only way to connect with their friends. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying let your kids be on screens all day, but I am saying that dig deeper and take a moment to understand what is going on beneath the behavior. And, I just laid it out for you, and there's probably you can probably do that with all of the behaviors, but kids need certainty, they need connection, and they need significance. And the fact that they're home all day, having a hard time being good at their homeschooling and being good at getting along with their siblings and being good at their chores, and never being able to see their friends, they're looking to things that you might not approve of in order to get those needs met. So next time your kid is doing something that you don't like, take a minute, look underneath the need, and then think about the best way to proceed. Again, this isn't about accepting the behavior, but as you know, telling your kid to get off the screen isn't really that effective. Taking the screen away isn't really that effective. What would be more effective is if you could show this child that you actually understand what they're going through, that you actually have compassion for what they're going through. Even if you just have it inside, it's not even with your words, it's with your energy. And the first way to connect with someone is to actually have a heartfelt understanding for what is going on with them. And looking at the needs is a great vehicle for getting there. So, and then another point is that, this is a really great time to show your child that you're actually an advocate for them, that they're having a hard time and you get it. And this isn't about you against them. It's actually not even about the teachers against them. One of the biggest lessons I think we can teach kids and teach ourselves really is to always give someone the benefit of the doubt. Always ascribe positive intent. So the teachers, you, the kid, everyone wants the same thing. But we're forgetting that because we're so busy going into victim mode again and saying, oh, now I have to homeschool. Oh, now I have to do all these things. And the reality is that the teachers are just doing the best they can. They don't know how to do this either. They don't know what the best way is, and they don't know what you're experiencing. So you have two opportunities right there. You can show your kid that you can go out of victim mode and into action. If you don't agree with the homeschooling, don't complain to your friends. Don't post on social media. Do something. Reach out to your teachers. Explain to them what you're going through. I guarantee they'll be so happy to hear from you. And if they're not, at least you have expressed yourself. And then tell your kid that you guys are on the same team, that you're going to work with them on this. Bossing them and telling them if they don't do their work, they're never going to learn how to read, or they're not going to be able to go to the next grade. All that does is create more resistance. And when you have resistance, it just pushes the kid away. It just makes the kid not want to do it that much more. So I think it's a beautiful opportunity to say to your kid, look, bud, if you fail, I will make sure that the whole school fails. Like, I will be on your side. We will work on this together. There's no way that I'm going to let that happen to you. There's no, take out the anxiety and see what's underneath. See if everyone is in that freeze mode because they're paralyzed by the uncertainty and the fear. So, okay. And then how are we doing on time here? Okay. So I just rattled off a lot of different things, and a lot of them are quite profound in terms of things that you're going to have to, think about and disrupt patterns and all these things that actually take some real work. But I'd like to give you a framework to think about that is more of a fake it till you make it strategy. And it's not actually faking it till you make it, because the last thing we want to do is perpetuate this, cycle of inauthenticity that so many of us are in. But I love frameworks because there's something you can keep top of mind. And this is a triad. This is the triangle. And this triangle, in human needs psychology, it can actually change who you are, change your well beyond your current state, but basically your entire identity. It can change it. We're not going to do that. You don't have time for that. That's a whole workshop. You've got to get yourself into a place that you're not triggered as you walk upstairs and someone's in there wanting something from you. So what we're going to do is talk about 3 aspects of this triad that you can manipulate at any point. And by manipulate, I just mean change. At any point that can instantly change your state. And more importantly, it can, the visual and audio cues that your child will pick up will also change. And that's really important because your kid's 911 bell is ringing constantly right now. And part of what we as parents can really do is to tone that down. So the first leg of the triangle is physical. I want you guys to just be aware. What are you doing with your physical body? Okay. Are you walking around your house, just sighing and shutting doors and, always looking at your phone constantly, like, oh, what? What, honey? They're not buying it. They see what you're doing when you're not talking to them. So you can put on your smile and try to be sweet. But if they're watching TV, and my children, they're 4 and 5, and if they're watching a cartoon, I can literally set my head on fire and they won't flinch. But if I pick up my phone and go, oh, what, mommy? What happened? They do it all the time. So if you think that they're not realizing what your reaction is to news, to your partner, to just being in a bad mood and them being mean to the dog, they are picking up on that. So I really want you to think about what you're doing with your physical body. And it's not, it's not being fake. It's actually just being deliberate. So, if I tell you, like, straighten up your back, your posture doesn't look great, you'll go like that. If I tell you have food on your mouth, you'll wipe it off. So I want you to think about this the same. It's just being conscious of how you're holding your physical body so that you don't do things unconsciously that have consequences that are not intended and not worth it to you. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 is meaning. Okay, sorry. Number 2 is focus. and not necessarily like what you're looking at, but your patterns of focus. And this one is really, really important, especially if you have older kids. Okay, so optimistic people in general have a very transient way of looking at things, okay? They understand that things come and things go, things will get better. They don't get stuck, and they definitely don't go widespread. So the pervasive attitude that you might be vocalizing, just be very careful, because this is a pattern that if your kid later has anxiety, this is one of the first things that you'll have to work on, is helping them to see things as flowing, as transient. So, try to stay away from language such as, really over the top language. This always happens to me. This always happens to me. The one time I'm going to close the deal, there has to be, a global pandemic. I mean, this is just so typical. This always happens to be. Actually, no, it doesn't. It doesn't always happen to you. There's only been one thing like this in my lifetime, so it doesn't. And we tend to go into hyperbole. It makes us feel better. It helps us make our points. It is a pattern of focus that you do not want to pass along to your kid. You might get it. You know that it doesn't always happen to you, or that, people never appreciate me. No one ever, I don't even know why I'm here. I do that. I don't even know why I bother. Why do I even bother? Again, your kids are learning patterns of focus. You do not want a teenager who learns that why bother? It's just not worth it. Just not even worth it to show up. Okay. So patterns of focus is number 2. And number three is meaning. So the meaning we attach to things. The meaning, my meaning, it goes kind of back to triggers in a way. So the meaning that I associate with something is completely different than someone else's. But again, your kids are watching. And earlier when we talked about this amazing energy that I expect you to show up with all the time, if you're not careful with what meaning you're attaching to things, you will not have the energy to show up in a way that can help usher this child to the highest version of him or herself, because you will be sucked dry. So what do I mean by this? Think of meaning, for this case, because we're going to stay high level, as mantra. I want you to be aware of the mantras, of the things that you are constantly saying in your head. You're saying things on repeat in your head and you don't even know it. So, for example, mommy, mommy. Oh, what? I mean, if that goes through your head before you answer, I understand. It's normal. What I'm trying to do, it's normal, but is that really going to help you with that next moment? Or is that you responding to the last 5 weeks of being stuck in your house? That's not moment to moment. And that is not in your best interest, because you will not make it through this. If you keep accumulating these moments and these mantras unconsciously, you'll be at capacity every day by 10 a.m. And that's if your kids sleep through the night. Mine don't. So I personally had to use this, and this is, many years ago. I started with this because my older daughter just challenges me. She is my mirror. She is my invitation to evolve in so many ways. And when she was really little, she used to start the day like that. She used to say things to me first thing in the morning. I would come downstairs and she'd look at me and say something like, "Do you have a cake pop for me?" And she was 2 years old. I think I bought her one cake pop in her entire life. And if I didn't have a cake pop, which I never did, she would completely go nuts, and there goes our morning. So I used to wake up an hour before she would even get up to make sure that my mantra was set, because I felt myself dreading her coming to me. And if I'm already dreading it, and in my mind I'm like, oh gosh, please sleep a little longer, please sleep a little longer, and then she comes down and it's not perfect, I'm going to fly off the handle, and we're going to start our day like that every day. So when we get off this phone call, you probably have, when we get off, what are we on? When you finish watching this live, if you even manage to get through it without a million people asking things of you, and I'm just about at time, but if you manage to get through it, then I want you to think about it before you walk out that door. You know, maybe you have a kid sitting right outside who has definitely, pulled their sibling's hair out / destroyed some property in the 20 minutes that you've been listening to me. Maybe you have a partner that's upstairs and the first thing out of their mouth is going to be something that you find critical, okay? I want you to think about what is going on in your head before you have that encounter. And I want you to set yourself up for success. Don't go up those stairs thinking, what now? Don't walk upstairs thinking they need to eat again. Feed your mind. Ask yourself the questions that you actually want the answers to. That is the only way you're going to fuel yourself so that you can have the energy to show up from a place of abundance and gratitude, from a place of focusing on what you want more of, not what you want less of, from a place of showing these kids that you are impenetrable, that your family and you as their fearless leader is going to make decisions that are not going to be at the mercy of the media, the mercy of what is going on outside in the world, because we're responsible for what goes on inside us. Nobody else. No one is in charge of our feelings. And this is such a beautiful opportunity for you to not only show your children day in and day out, but to also feel it yourself. And the more that you can feel it for yourself, the more that you can show yourself that you, the adult version of you, the highest iteration of who you are, is in charge, the more you are going to prove to yourself and dig different grooves that will then become who you are. And like I said, it's on. You're in spiritual boot camp, and it can either be the spiritual boot camp from hell, or your awakening can happen with this. And, God bless those children that are going to trigger you over and over and over again. And I just hope that you can, my hope for you is that you can every single time reframe. Sweet, I'm about to evolve. Here we go. Let's evolve. So thank you for being with me today. I wish you so much luck during this time, but even more than luck, I hope that you will take these lessons to heart and realize that you are in charge. The adult version of you is in charge. I am going to offer a free coaching class for anybody that is interested. And what I need you to do is I need you to comment in this live. You can comment later because I know people will be going back and forth. I would love for you to comment, and then comment the beginning and the end, because you have to watch it to make sure that it's a fit. And comment at least at the beginning and the end, and then reach out to me. You can reach out to me through the summit. You can reach out on my Facebook page, however works. I'm also at themindfulmamacita.com. And I would love to see how I can help you guys have a blissful, difficult, and truly transformative time with your kids and with yourself during this time. Thank you. If I could figure out how to turn this off.